Well, you know, Hannah Dodge, too, was the most outstanding educator. She became her first teacher at the North School.
Oh, but I knew that she was the first woman superintendent. Superintendent of the
In Massachusetts.
in Massachusetts.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And she's being followed. Oh, look, she had Civil War brief. That's right.
And there's the ladies following after the troops. Isn't that wonderful? Well, look at the difference in the cost. Difference between the Revolutionary War and the Civil War. It's almost like a history lesson here.
It is. It's true.
Units, I mean, for a young child to be sitting here and watching.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
So open both meetings.
You guys want to open your meeting?
Open.
You're open for business?
We have Jones here.
Great, we have a 7:30 master plan update, a joint meeting with the selectmen. Thank you all for coming. Keith, you want to start off?
Sure, Mr. Chairman, thank you. I had met with this board back in July and then regarding the master plan update and a proposal to establish a steering committee. The Board of Selectmen had discussed that during the month of August. They invited in a planner from MAPC to walk them through what the master plan update process is about. One of the selectmen's top goals, in fact, the top goal adopted this year by the board out of 9 goals, number 1 was update of the master plan. I can report to you that in addition to the $100,000 town meeting has already appropriated, that was approved by the May 2014 town meeting, the Board of Selectmen is including in the November special town meeting warrant a supplemental funding request for another $50,000, so that we're getting closer to the goal of the target of 250, which had been mentioned. So we have, so if that's approved, we'd have $50,000. That's in the warrant for November. The board wanted to take the next step, though, of meeting with your board to agree on what the master plan update steering committee, what its function should be and how it should be established, what the composition of the committee would be. And we had a huddle earlier today with the chair and vice chair of the two boards to try to craft a proposed motion for the joint consideration of the two boards tonight. I had emailed that out, and then I've left hard copies for all of you, and I think you now say that all of my board now has that draft motion as well. And you want to just walk through that?
Sure. That's great.
Yeah, it looks good.
The thought was that the first to call it the master plan update steering committee. Didn't think too long or hard of what that produces in terms of an acronym, but what it does say is that the function that we're undertaking is to update an existing plan, that there is a plan that was in 2002. We're not scrapping that and as though it never existed. We're taking that as a starting point for updating to our current situation a master plan. And towards that end, it was thought that the mission of this steering committee should be to assist the planning board in updating the town's master plan, including preparation of a review or critique of the 2002 master plan document and a proposed scope of services for the update. In terms of what the composition of the committee might be, the proposal that the chairs and vice chairs would wish to put before the two boards is a 12-member steering committee to be comprised of three groups. First group would be planning board and selectmen, 2 each. So four from each of the three groups, total of 12. Group 2 would be other town boards whose functions are reflected in the elements of the master plan. I have to say that is a population that is considerably larger than 4. Nevertheless, the thought was to ask the dozen or so committees if they would like to participate in the process, and then maybe you'll get, let's see what interest that you get, and then select from however many apply and put 4 representing other town boards. The third group of 4 members would be from the public at large, would be citizens of Littleton, so that there's citizen representation. So it's 4, 4, and 4, the 2 each from planning and selectmen, 4 from other town boards whose work is reflected in the elements of the master plan, and then 4 citizens at large. The thought further was that we would ask applicants for both the board seats and the community at large seats to apply for those positions. The selectmen's policy requires that we post notices for 4 weeks. And in particular, it was thought that what we might want to do, given the nature of this undertaking, is actually ask the applicants to submit, along with their application, a critique or comments on the 2002 plan, would sort of inviting them to read it if they hadn't, and also any suggestions that they might have for the update. And so that when the two boards reconvene after the application deadline, you can be having a discussion with potential applicants based on their application and based on the thoughts that they have about the existing plan and the update. My guess is that you probably want to, just as I'm talking about that and thinking how much time that would take, we'll probably want to schedule a special meeting at some point. It would probably take you an hour or two to do it right and to maybe 90 minutes but to find some time after the application deadline to interview folks and probably have some pretty good discussions about the future of the master plan process as a start. The committee would then be seated. Their function, as I mentioned, would be to review and critique the original plan document, what worked, what didn't work, what did we do, what did we not do, as well as to then suggest particular areas that should be included in a master plan update. That there's a budget right now of 100,000, which we hope will grow to 150, which could be used to hire a consultant. The way you do that with the scope of services is you put out a request for proposals, but the meat behind that is what's in the scope of services. And I think that you'd want to have that steering committee come report back to your two boards and have a robust discussion about their recommendations and how you'd like to proceed. So my guess is that whole process might take, well, seating the committee, if applications, let's say if you vote tonight to establish the committee, applications would be due in mid-October. Maybe you make the appointments in late October, early November. The committee starts meeting in November. It might be, February or March by the time they could come back with proposals. But by having two members each from the Board of Selectmen and the Planning Board, I think that you'll keep in close contact with what the committee's doing. We're all going to attend the meetings. I mean, many of us will be attending those meetings for input and as resources. So I think we can get a lot done.
Yeah, it's a good jumping off meeting we had today, and like I said, what I think we can do consensus, that's the best way to move forward now. I know Richard has expressed interest in being one of the members from the planning board. I know Don would like to be one as well. I don't know.
Well, isn't it elections next year again?
May.
And we start meeting in February?
No, hopefully October, late October, November. Come back to the, another committee sometime February, March.
Do you wrap it up by February, March?
No.
You'll
That's
just be starting.
Just starting, yeah.
That just gets you to the point where you'd be engaging a consultant to actually
Right.
start the work.
What's your delivery date?
What's the delivery date? Oh, a year from then.
A year?
If then. Oh,
Yeah.
at least.
that long.
Oh, at least. Maybe two.
2?
You don't want to rush into this. I mean, this is a huge project that, the people, the townspeople want to be involved in. It's a big deal.
Yeah, it's a lot involved.
Yeah,
That's a big deal.
just doing the housing element, it's taken us half a year. And we had our first kick, and by the way, the housing update element can be just, you can just pull that right into the
That's separate. We
master
already
plan
have MAPC
document.
working.
MAPC's got a separate contract, partially grant funded. But that housing element is something that you can just pull into the work that's
How
being done in
many
the
elements?
master plan.
How many elements are in the plan?
We have the scope, I think, from MAPC.
Well, but, yeah, and actually, that's part of the discussion, too. There are some things that are mandatory: transportation,
Yep.
facilities, land use, housing, economic development, to name a few. The land use includes open space and things like that. You might want to be doing other things. I know other communities, for example, have pulled in things like energy, or, you can pick.
So we're looking at least a 2-year process, is about what you're thinking of, correct?
Could be.
It could be. I mean, it could.
One of the benefits you have is that you have a document that's right there, we had talked about today. That's why.
So we have something to build off of,
Yeah.
but again, you're probably a year plus the 2.
Yeah,
Because
how
because the
long did it
process
take?
takes, it's the process
2002.
that takes the time.
It took an extended time, and I know that was one of the issues, but how long did it take in 2002, or to produce the 2002?
We had, but we came up with the scope back in 2002 when we all started it. It was mostly volunteer. We designed the scope. It took a year just to get the scope. At least we have the scope there. It's
How much of it's
It was
discretionary?
very broad, it included a lot of the communities.
Yeah, we had meetings on Saturdays where everybody got to go up and put stuff on boards and things like that, so I don't think we're gonna have to go as extensive with that. We at least have an idea.
But how much of this is a discretionary versus a mandatory, as far as what we actually have discretion over and what we can change or enhance?
Well, for example, The existing plan has all the required elements in it.
Right.
Okay, so as a starting point, you're good. And the issue is, which of those do you want to update? And which do you need to spend quality time updating? Facilities, I think, is just one that we would need to spend some quality time on, because, and another of the selectmen's goals this year is to have the public safety departments come up with their plans that link into the master plan. Things like facilities, or which is not simply infrastructure, but is also the service levels that you need. Those are linked to the type of, the quantity and quality of development that you have. You know, what type of, what impacts we would have on the, police department or the fire department are linked at some level to how much growth and development. And
Is there, is MAPC going to provide those ratios as far as
Well, it's not just-
what the density is, the
Well,
impact?
whoever
is
the
on-
consultant is can,
Yeah,
sure.
you can't just throw MAPC out there as the golden child, because we've got
Yeah.
to look at some others.
And-
Oh, but
Yeah,
I
who-
know, but I know it
Yeah.
fits.
Yeah,
MAPC could be contracted.
Whoever is the contracted consultant would be expected to
Who's
provide-
responsible for the due diligence aspect? Who's providing all of that, the stats to back up all the decisions?
That'll be
Well,
once
it sounds
once we
like-
do the master
Right,
plan. That'll be
right.
part of it.
That'll be part of it.
We'll look at it like, when we did it 12 years ago, everyone wanted to see more amenities in town. So we'll take a look and see, okay, we're at the point, we did do the overlay and everything else. Is that all we need to do to get more amenities in town, or do we need to take it to the next level? They want to see more open space. Did we do a good job? They're gonna look at everything that we thought was important 12 years ago, find out how we did. We give us like a report, sort of like a report card, I would say. And then what new issues are there? There's more technology now. Do we need to address that? There's more services that we need.
Right.
So we need somebody to take the master plan to the next level after 12 years.
Well, and the reason why I'm asking is, so for your second, 4 members drawn from other town boards reflecting various elements, I mean, don't you want to make sure you have, like, the core boards represented, like Light and Water, Highway, Concom, Fire, Police, Civil, Park and
Well,
Rec?
most of those
Staff.
aren't
Right.
departments and not
Staff.
boards.
Yeah, in the.
They may be staff, but I mean,
Part of it
it's,
no matter what. They'll be part of
You
that no
get, yeah,
matter
you
what.
get,
So what-
you get highway and police
Yeah.
and fire and,
by default.
Yeah, they may not be in the steering committee, but they'll
they're there.
participate.
But we're looking for town board representation. You're right, Light and Water is
That's a board.
is a prime candidate.
Yep.
Concom's a candidate,
Conservation definitely went,
Right.
Park and Rec.
Park and Rec.
Cemetery, how much would they, I mean.
And Jerry, as we go through this also, there'll be a core committee, but there's going to be various working groups that are attached to that committee.
School committee, I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think easily so, that if you had an element on transportation, for example, that there would be others that we would bring into
I think the
that.
problem was when we started to look, we could have gotten 15 people, but when you got a board that big, it's hard to get everybody there, it's hard to get a consensus from everybody.
Oh, no, I agree. I
The
think
real
we're
question,
gonna-
who's gonna continue showing up? A lot of people wanna be on board initially and then drop off. The real question is, who's going to actually be there for the meetings?
Sort of why we thought 12. First of all, two members from our board and the selectmen, that means we don't have to post it as a meeting because it's not a quorum. And then.
But you need 7 of the 12 as a quorum, to be able to conduct the business of the committee.
And the only other comment I have on the 4 members in the community at large, I think you want to make sure you get, if you were to like break Littleton up into a quadrant, you want someone from each section.
And
Well,
if
it
we
depends
got,
on who's gonna,
But then-
Yeah,
sign
when
the
you-
paper, saying, I wanna come show up.
When you say break it into a quadrant, are you speaking geographically,
Yeah, I mean, you want to
demographically?
make, because you've got different parts of this town, different interests, different.
They get 4 20-year-olds or 4 80-year-olds, but each from different section towns. So I don't know that you want to get
Not like
that
that.
definitive in some things.
We might
And the steering
wanna-
committee is precisely that. It's a steering committee, just by the title. It's not the one that's going to be making all the decisions. They're going to be bringing things forward to the planning board, to the selectmen, but they'll also be reaching out to get people to help them. And the guidance they're going to get from you all and from the selectmen is going to help that steer, if you will, how the ship is going to go, the course it's going to take, and then the input that you're going to get from town folks also.
and you're hoping that there's gonna be plenty of participation by the, as we have in meetings, by the people in the town. When we first started, like, as was talked about earlier, we had to take the little room down at the Shaker Lane, Shattuck Street, and we filled it. There were people out in the hallway. As it got further and further, it waned a little bit, and when, by the end, it was,
The
us and
committee.
janitors.
One of the things that happened the first time around is that the interests, there were subgroups that were formed. For instance, I was part of the public safety subgroup, and that subgroup had different interests in it as well. So they had citizens, and they weren't necessarily, it wasn't a steering committee then, but there's so much work to be done, it's gonna be segmented off into groups that wanna work in a particular area, like public safety or economic development or something like that. So I think what we're gonna have is a public that's gonna see the area they wanna participate in, and they're going to gravitate towards it, and there's going to be a place for them there. And I would assume that this consultant would create the sub-working groups, because it's too big for a single committee to handle.
Yep.
The other issue is, 12 years ago, we didn't have the internet and as much information out there that we do now. Now with the consultants there and with the free flow of information, we'll be able to communicate better than having to wait for a meeting and everything else. Emails will be going back and forth. Everyone will be more in tune with what's going on too, whereas before you used to have to wait for the meetings to find stuff out.
It may well be the revamped zoning legislation, which nearly passed. When it happens, it'll connect up to the master plan, and you'll have to point to things. So it has to be done well. In most other states, that is the case. Massachusetts is considered on the list of 49 for zoning. It's one of the worst zoning in the country, because it's so fragmented, it's not connected. So, it's a matter of making sure it makes sense. So when that does get in place, it actually holds together.
Just one comment, I know that the housing committee, which is overseeing the housing production plan update, really, you could think about it as the subgroup that is handling one of the elements of the master plan. But even from that process, we've seen the need to be able to plug that work into a bigger vision of the town, that you can't address any one element by itself. You need the template of the master plan to know, because ultimately it's all about the map. It's all about what can you do and where can you do it, and it requires choices to be made. So,
I think one of the things that we have to take into account here is the previous plan. There's a lot of people who know it's there. Some of them know exactly what it says, but there's not too many that say, we did exactly what that plan outlined for us. But if you look at what I think is the gold standard for how a committee works, and I'm not just saying it because you're sitting next to me, the Government Study Committee built something that was actionable and that the public felt they could be behind, and it gave us the government that we have now. I think we have to be very careful to do the same sort of thing, that it is high enough quality that your board, our board, any other board will say, before we start this, let's look at the master plan and get our sidelines established. I think that's what lacked the last time, because the last time it was at times controversial. And
we had a wish list, but we didn't have a way to implement the wish list.
Yeah, and I think it will help everybody, board members now and board members in the future, and all the people that want to volunteer for the town. If we do a really good job with this plan, it's going to have a huge impact on the positive side.
So we need to take a vote, since it's really planning board's issue, about creating the master plan steering committee and adopting this format and moving forward with it, and then sending out the invitations to the different boards and the residents.
I would move for us to.
Yeah, I'll second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 You want to make our appointment tonight?
motion as presented.
Yeah, motion as presented.
To vote on it?
We just need to act on the motion.
And I know Richie Crawley.
I know Richard wants to be, I said that a little earlier.
Right, we're saying this, so
Who's interested?
Select
elections is next year. If
Yeah, you
he
should
runs
vote.
again or doesn't,
Do you think?
we're gonna
I
need to
thought it was
put
just-
another planning board on there.
I thought it was Venus.
Yeah.
Well, it was
Or this
proposed
being
for
your
both
last
motions.
term, don't you want to be on it?
Would you want to do it?
I thought you'd be brand new, raring to go, you'd want to.
Did you want to do it? I mean, you've been another, 5 years?
Discuss it.
There's two meetings happening at the same
We
time.
do it tonight, I mean, you guys,
Yeah, he's next up.
TJ and Melissa,
Two.
so the two interested, unless
Alex, or you.
We'll leave that
I'm
open for
okay
now.
with those two.
I'd be more
You don't want
comfortable
to?
having a
We'll deal with it in
discussion.
February.
Do we have to
Sit
appoint
down
it?
and-
We don't have to
Yeah,
appoint it.
we do, we
Okay,
we
let's
should,
have
we
a
need to?
discussion.
those two for this, yes.
Because we're also going to talk a little bit about what we're all looking for at the same time as we pick our.
Don wants to do it.
Don wants it, so.
So you get three out
And
of
if he
5.
doesn't get reelected or doesn't run, then he can always be
I
a
know,
member of the...
he can be a member of the community at large, sure.
But do you want to do
That's
that?
leadership by example.
Well, actually, kind of,
That's
doesn't
appointment
matter,
now.
'cause you would just,
Need the motion
yeah,
for this.
you wouldn't be on it as a planning board member.
So moved.
Somebody would just replace it.
You take his place.
You take it.
You can-
You.
Are we still live?
Yeah.
Yeah, good. Stop your bickering.
Right, and the
you wanna
two
make the
meetings run.
So do we want to make the appointment?
For the period ending in the next election, and then you can.
Absolutely, yeah.
appoint
So
it.
next election,
Perfect.
we'll elect
Motion to
those
adjourn, all in
along with the
favor?
rest of the officers. Sure, so this will be until next time.
Stay for the turf
And who
wars.
made-
What time is that?
I'll
Richie
make a
Crowley.
motion that Richard Crowley and Don McIver be our two representatives for the master plan steering committee.
Permission to
You
read the letter.
appointed Richie
And Don,
and Don?
yeah.
What, are you leaving now?
What about Peter?
No, he can only do two.
Oh, he doesn't want to do it?
No, he didn't want to do it.
Can you wait just
All
a
right,
second?
second.
Second, all in favor? Aye.
Hey.
We just
You
appointed
vote-
our
You
two.
vote aye.
Okay.
Aye, aye, aye.
Aye,
And
aye.
you've done that as well, and you
You
also
too?
moved for this.
Yeah, we moved that. No, you didn't
No,
vote.
we-
You already
we
said-
did, but did
You
I-
got to arm wrestle for it?
So the two are,
Richard and
Richard
Don.
and Don.
okay, very good, thanks.
Who are your two?
They don't have,
We're gonna-
To be determined.
To be determined.
But if I was guessing, you bet me.
it's whoever loses the bet, I guess.
Mr. Chairman, could I share some news that we're authorized to
Absolutely.
share with the public tonight that,
Some good news finally.
some good news to answer one of the most asked questions in town, what's going to happen to the market basket in Littleton, that we received official word today and permission to release the news that Sam Park has received written assurance from Arthur T. Demoulas that the market basket in Littleton will open by the end of this calendar year. In fact, the letter that Sam received from Arthur T. says, "I'm writing to provide you with the assurance that we are, after some delay, proceeding rather quickly and have directed all available resources to open the new Market Basket supermarket in Littleton by the end of December 2014. Sam confirms that he'll have a soft opening of the Market Basket before the year's end. The other tenants, it looks like probably won't be until in the new year, perhaps March. We'll get some definitive dates that Sam will be announcing as soon as he can, but he did want to share the news to at least stop the questioning. Actually, about a minute or two after Sam said I could release the news, I just happened to see on Twitter, Waltham Mayor had released the news that, similar news for their market basket as well. So I think some of there's more information that's getting out there. The intent is to open the stores, and we very much wanted to be able to share that news, that it's going forward. What's most important about it is that Market Basket is the anchor for the point development, and without the anchor, it's difficult to make sure the rest of the
People come in, right?
rest of the ship is, well, I don't want to. But it's an important development to know that the anchor store is going to be open, and that allows all the other pieces to fit into place and allows the whole project to go forward. So it's
It's good news.
good
It'll
news.
waylay a lot of fears about whether the point was going to open and the viability of it. That's good news. Thank you, Keith.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all for coming, by the way.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we have New State Road and Agog Hill Road acceptance.
Board of Selectmen will have their public hearing shortly, I think, 22nd, to make a recommendation at town meeting on accepting it. They need your input for that public hearing.
Could we have some insight as to why it hasn't been accepted up to now? I mean, it's sort of surprising those aren't already accepted roads since they've been around for such a long
Can't
time.
find any proof that they ever were accepted at town meeting, and before the town spends millions of dollars on upgrading those
Right.
roadways, this was approved in process.
Apparently, there's a whole category of roads that have been in existence since
Mhm.
1846. I'm not quite sure what the significance of that year. However, that there are, at least for these two roads, that there is not evidence that town meeting ever voted to accept them. And when we're trying to look at what the layout is,
Mhm.
to make sure that we're not going outside the layout and affecting an abutter's property in a way that would constitute a taking, we really need to know what we control. And after a thorough search of the records, we can't find where appropriate layouts, takings and layouts were done for these two. And we've only just looked for these two, that it may be a longer list of roads that we would have to bring to town meeting. And so to officially lay them out.
So this is the first step, because you're gonna
This-
fix the
this-
roads.
This is the first step, and we want to do it because, as was said, if we're going to be spending millions of dollars on the roads, we really want to be able to prove to, the state, if we're using Chapter 90 money, which we are, that it's a public way. I'm aware anecdotally, at least of one case where somebody beat in this town beat a speeding ticket because they had the insider information that one of these roads was not a public way, and could throw that up at a district magistrate hearing. So, okay, so we will make sure that we are.
Now, previously, we had roads that were not up to snuff, roads with the new town-wide widening of roads and sidewalks and all this other stuff.
We got sued.
And in this instance, New Estate doesn't have it, neither does Nagog Hill Road, correct? They don't meet current standards?
They probably, I haven't reviewed.
This is I'm only having a little bit of fun here.
Yeah,
So
I
shouldn't
haven't
we make the
reviewed-
residents bring that road up to snuff before we accept the road?
Why didn't you have that position before you ran for reelection? That's hilarious.
Well,
That was a joke. That was in
We're not-
reference to
no,
something
we're-
previous.
no, we're not going to.
Just wondering.
We're not going to require that, but we're also in the conundrum that if we feel that the town's actually the owner, I mean, I guess we're standing in the shoes of where the developer would otherwise be, but we're not going to spend town funds.
I'm sure they
to
were
improve these roads.
Up
and-
to
and
subdivision
fill in
standards
less.
when they were finished.
Well, there were complications. If
I'm
that
sure
roads
they were
extend beyond
compliant
layouts.
with whatever 1846 required,
Right.
which was nothing, so.
So it sounds like something we should do by necessity.
It's something we should do, and it's the first step. Step one is to certify that which all the, the abutting deeds and plans say is the layout of the public
It's
way.
more
That's
of a
step one.
housekeeping.
Step two will then be to come up with a proposed amended plan, which shows what the layout would need to be in order for us to do necessary improvements to the road. That will engender some discussion with property owners, because it will almost certainly require a taking here or there, some shape that sticks out in the road, that layout that we would want to acquire in order to have a smooth transition. That's going to take time, that's going to take discussions with the affected property owners. Going into it, we want to at least know what is the layout of the town road. So that's step one for this
You
November.
need us to,
This is our recommendation.
And
of
we
the
need you to
selectmen.
make the selectmen will be having a hearing on the layout of those two roads as public ways on September 22nd. It would be helpful to have the report of the recommendation of the planning board to vote to lay them out in the form that we understand them to be. And this is based on the plans that Green International has prepared by going through all of the abutting deeds and plans.
most conducive to the town of Littleton and its residents.
As close to the current zoning as feasibly possible.
Now, what happens when the road goes beyond the layout, as Green had noticed?
They said you gotta get the abutters and the
Well,
landowners to.
then that's step
release.
two. That's, then we'll, that's step two.
Yep.
So procedurally speaking, you only need the town to vote that in, and once that's done,
Once that's done, we will have simply
Go to step two.
preserved what we thought was there all along. The next step, though, because we can already predict that the layout as the engineer has showed it to be, is not going to be enough to get a road project done. That at some point, we're going to have a little wider, and that would engender a discussion with the affected
Which is your step two.
abutters, which is the step two. And
So,
But for this is the level that would not require any takings or any,
Right.
so I
Protocol.
So
will,
it's a learning,
I'll entertain a motion to approve the preliminary layouts that Green has done for both these roads and send a letter on to the selectmen that we want to proceed with the process of the town accepting the roadways as laid out so that, or as best they can, because they may not be able to do everything that current.
It equates the best interest of the town.
So-
I
Right,
second.
second. All in favor?
aye.
Thank you.
So we'll send you a letter that, and we'll be part of the process, obviously, we'll be part of the process as we move forward.
They've already held a public hearing for new estate.
Well, we have had public meetings on the proposed reconstruction projects, but we will be holding the road layout public hearing on September 22nd. In fact, I've had to clarify for some of the butters, what is it that's going to be decided on September 22nd? Are the selectmen going to decide what the new reconstructed road project is going to look like and where it's going to go? No, we're not. That will be later. Right now, all we are doing is officially declaring where the legal layout currently exists.
And asking the townspeople to take it as a
And
town
to
way.
bring it to town meeting. The next step, though, will be to look at what we'd like the road to be in order to proceed with the road project.
All right, we also have an issue with funding for the turf study. We've got 35,000, is that what we've set aside to,
We have a proposal from Green for just under $30,000 to do a feasibility and master plan study for turf fields, looking not only at the three that the turf committee was interested in, but looking at developing some of the undeveloped field areas. Just,
so we're looking to take the 30,000 from the $100,000 that we got as mitigation for the Omni project and use that to start looking at.
We don't need to spend $30,000 looking at fields that we wish to maybe develop. We want to do the football field off of Russell Street and do up at the lacrosse field behind the new high school. Those are the only two that are feasible. You can't use St. Anne's because we don't own the land.
Yeah.
We turn around and go up behind Morgan's. What else are you going to open it up to? You can't do it inside the track. How are you going to have a lacrosse game going on at the same time as they're running track or throwing the javelin and everything else? So it's the only two fields, the only two places that make sense. So why do we spend $30,000 on a feasibility study where we know where they want
How do you
them to go?
know that Morgan property doesn't make sense to build a new facility instead of repairing one of the old ones? What you gain by doing that, or at least by looking at it, is you'll have more facilities in town.
What do you gain by putting, what you lose by not doing at the high school is you already have the parking, you already have the stands.
Well, I don't think anyone's gonna argue that the football field is not
So
a
the
given.
second one is we don't even have a field behind the Morgan property, so we gotta do, wasn't there issues with how we got up there in the first place?
Well, that's what the
road?
feasibility is gonna do. You're gonna have,
There was no feasibility to putting a soccer field in, it was just grass, because you couldn't get at it.
the reason you need to do a feasibility study is because when you go to town meeting floor and you ask for $1.8 million or $1.3 million, you gotta do your homework. You gotta make sure you've looked at all the other options for the other fields. It's $30,000, it's,
I see me personally, I'm against giving $30,000 for something where the smartest place to put it, no matter after you look everywhere, are still these two places.
They were asking for 3, actually,
Yes,
so.
two practice fields.
Yeah, 2 practice fields.
And where would the third one?
I thought it was at the high school.
Right next to the, what's that, the
Russell
middle,
Street School.
Russell Street School.
Sorry, right next to the middle school.
Middle school.
The little field in front of it.
Okay, the one where the practices are.
It just,
But that wouldn't even be a full, that's just a practice
That's
term.
right.
Yeah, 2 practice fields.
that's why it
and
makes
11.
sense
Well, they've
that,
got 3 teams practicing right there.
2
fifth, sixth, and
practice
eighth
fields?
grade.
So their proposal is to build 2 fields just for practice purposes?
I don't believe that's what, no.
He
The
said
high
2
s-
practice
Well,
fields.
that's not,
Say, what are called practice fields currently. That the, I don't know if we have.
the high school is, when it
We
says
have-
practice, you're
we don't
talking
have any-
football practice.
Yeah.
no.
We don't have any of the
For that.
proponents for this project here tonight, but in the presentation that the selectmen had, it was indicated that there were 3 fields that are town-owned that are on school property. Alumni Field was one, it was described as a practice field that's adjacent to the high school, behind the high school.
That's used for lacrosse.
And the other is the practice field that's next to.
I love how
the
this stuff gets
middle
described. So
Right.
those,
And
the two fields that are behind the high school are used for lacrosse and varsity soccer right now. So,
Right, it's the very first field.
Only one of the 2 fields.
And
but the
baseball.
field next to Russell Street, the new middle school, is not a full-size field.
Correct, that
You
would
can
be a
play,
practice
you
field.
could play like a U10, U12 style game there
Right.
only.
Right, and it's overused now. That's,
It's totally destroyed, yeah.
right. And that's why the condition of it's bad.
But my point is, I think it's a smarter use of funds to have 3 full-size fields, so that 3 full-size games can play. Otherwise, it's the same thing with the basketball courts. Instead of going an extra 8 feet and being able to run 2 practices side by side, you now only have 1 full-size court, so now we have a basketball court problem. So it's not, I mean, if you spend 1.8 and it's gonna cost you 2, you might as well spend the extra 200K.
You might as well do.
They
the
do it right.
Feasibility
I
to
think
find out.
the difference between a feasibility cost might be 20 instead of 30, if you don't add the element of a preliminary, I mean, what came back from Green was something called a master plan and feasibility study for turf. So with the notion, as the chair said, that by the time you get in front of town meeting, and we're always asked, well, where else did you look?
Right.
That you want to be able to say that you looked at other places and.
We have other
frankly,
build-out
pulled them out.
scenarios.
Well, but no, I'm not disagreeing with what Peter said. I agree with you. I don't think we need to spend 30K to figure that out. I mean, I think the town, the committee that's involved could do the due diligence, put that proposal together. If they're not willing to do that, then maybe.
They have done it, and that's part of this issue, is the high school, the alumni field, the field behind the new high school, and that practice
Yeah,
one. But
no,
the practice
I
one,
said-
granted, being smaller than what we'd ideally like to see.
And that's what I'm saying, like, why would you want to dump money into something
There's,
like
then
that?
up at the high school itself, there's the one area that it's totally for lacrosse. There's another one right next to it where they have a JV soccer games
Yes.
going on also.
Yeah.
There's our third field, if we
No,
wish
no,
it.
But that one runs into the baseball field, so then you'd have to decide, are you turfing the baseball field as well?
Right.
And at that point, do you run into where the Phantom addition is supposed to go on the high school?
The Phantom
The
Edition.
Right,
Extra space
the
set
build-out
aside
space.
for future
Well, if we
expansion
took a little bit of the,
Right.
some of the
So,
space in
and
the
it's
buildings
those kinds
used
of
for
questions that.
administration,
You're
we'd
gonna
have plenty of
That's why
classrooms.
you have to do all your due diligence so
Yeah,
that
maybe it's smarter.
you need to be able to, at town meeting floor, when you get the 200 people that usually show up there, you can stand up at town meeting floor and say, we looked at all these different scenarios, we have this build-out scenario, that one. It's money well spent to get it through the first time, and that's what they want to do. They want to fast-track this and get going and put a funding thing together to get the $1.8 million or the $1.3 million, whatever it works out. And they'll also have budget numbers by the time they're done with this. It's, I think it's money well spent to answer.
I mean, how much
a lot of
time is it
questions.
taking to go through this due diligence process?
The schedule that Green produced said that
Here's one of the proponents.
if they started at the day after town meeting, they'd have it, I think the project done by January.
early
So the
January.
feasibility study would be done by January.
was the schedule that I saw submitted to the board.
Jeff, you have
In 2009, the building committee did the feasibility study for the track, and we looked at putting artificial turf down at both the football field and at the high school, if that's where the track was ultimately to go. The feasibility study included the different locations. Feasibility study included geological testing, soil surveys, because you're gonna have drainage that you're gonna have to deal with. If we were gonna put the track at the high school, we were gonna reconfigure the field, they were gonna move some, we were gonna redo the traffic pattern, things like that. Of course, this wouldn't be that scope because the track isn't gonna be involved with it, but you're still gonna have drainage to look at. There's a lot more to look at. In the feasibility study, to some extent, we all question whether it's worth it, but there was also cost analysis included in it, and when you see all the steps of it, it gets more involved than one typically
Well, when
thinks.
you did it, did that include the existing high school football field?
Yes.
So we already have a feasibility study of that.
Well, we have the feasibility study
That,
with the turf field going there, so
Okay.
I actually have the numbers on that. It's in the feasibility study that Gale Associates did. The figures are outdated, being 2009, but we have quite a bit of information on it, which somehow we could
we've
try,
already paid for that.
we could
Sounds
try
like the
to
upside.
figure into this somehow, but we also have it for the high school too, because they were looking at doing it there.
Well, what if we could provide Green with this information to reduce their prices
I'm
instead of,
sure that's a great idea, whatever information we can already give them. so
We
they don't have
can-
to be-
and whatever's left, we can turn back in towards the building of these fields, providing the town agrees with such an event.
Yes, sir. Name,
Yes.
please, Lamar.
Mitt Wanzer, 39 Mill Road. I'm also on Community Preservation Committee. And I'd be interested to know that, given what Jeff said about the feasibility study that was done in the past and what's being promoted now as something that's got a lot of momentum behind it for a fall meeting, fall town meeting, and some urgencies from the turf group, who I haven't met yet, but
Mike Brewer.
all right, great. I'd like it put in a bigger context too of, it seems like, I know that the Parks and Recreation and Community Education has already talked to our committee, and I assume to other planners in town around the Morgan property. And would it be possible, for instance, that this $100,000 could be brought into the town budget, possibly through CPC, but that it could be, that we'd be more efficient to think of this in a more global way that could include Morgan property fields?
That's exactly what this is all about. We're putting
You mean
money
for
in.
for turf and a field out there?
Even beyond turf, I think if we think of it as not a project in itself, as having defined borders, that this the feasibility study is just for the 3 fields that's being talked about, and it's just for putting artificial turf on them.
Yeah.
I think it would be smart to have a bigger, to push the project a little bit bigger so that we can even think about growing fields, because what Peter Scott brought up was that there's only a certain number of fields that are ready for being turfed, so to speak. But if Morgan property means we're adding to the number of fields that are town-wide in use, it may actually reduce the playtime on some fields, and turf may be obviated.
That's
So
what
not
this,
necessary.
that's what this is all. First of all, we're taking the 30,000, setting it aside as CPC funds so we can get a third of it reimbursed back from the state. One of the things they are looking at is the Morgan property, whether it makes more sense to build a brand new field out there, whether it's turfed or grass, as part of the inventory for the town of Littleton. Green already started looking at that before we asked them to look at all of the properties in the town of Littleton. So they're gonna be looking at everything that the town owns to see about the feasibility of adding ball fields, whether turfed or not turfed, and that's what this feasibility study will do. It'll show us different.
Not everything.
Not
They have a-
everything.
They have a list.
They have a list. No, we're not gonna look at it. They have a build-out scenario, the different scenarios of different fields. So
Okay,
then,
forgive me then, because it feels on the surface that this seems like a single project. And I'm very receptive to what the Parks and Recreation is interested in doing for building new fields around
We
town.
need to have options in order to make a informed decision.
You really want to do that?
No, I think the 30 grand in this, of what you just explained with the other fields and the availability to them. And again, if we can give the information that Jeff has already received to them, and they could turn around and say, yeah, you know what, we didn't use the 30 grand. I could go for that and make a motion to approve that $30,000.
Okay, so.
Well, actually, there's some issues here. First of all, you know, we put $100,000 aside for active recreation, no question about it. In fact, it's provision 16, but it's to the town, it's not our money, we've done it. Why isn't the selectmen running this? Hold on, you think of when the track organization went in, both the school and the selectmen proposed that warrant article. They had site control. When Park and Rec was looking at Morgan, they put stuff in, they had, well, for 300 King Street, these had site control. We have no site control. We've decided $100,000 should be tagged for active recreation. No question about this. But why, I mean, this is being pushed from the selectman's office, as I can see. Why don't the selectmen take that $100,000, no, excuse me, that $100,000?
I thought you asked a question.
Well, I'm not finished with the question. With, as designated town of Littleton, and then put it in the CPA if you want to, but on this, what sounds like the beginning stages of a build project, possibly up to 2.5 million capital campaign, I don't think we're the right group for it. The selectmen, I can understand. Why is this coming from us? I was surprised on the CPA committee to find out the applicant was the planning board, because no one knew. And there are some other issues that you may have seen that have come out of this. All of a sudden, this is being pushed. Why aren't the, if you're doing something extraordinary, why aren't the selectmen doing it?
Well, they are.
No,
The
it's-
Board of- If you don't want me to answer the question, I can just, remain silent.
No, I think this is very frustrating, Keith. You're playing games.
No, Don, I
no,
actually,
talking about, Don.
I
Just want-
actually asked to do it. I thought it made sense for the planning board to start it because we went out and got the funds. We're involved with open space. That money was earmarked for active recreation.
Right.
I suggested that it start in our board, understanding full well that the selectmen are the ones that have to put it on the warrant article. They're the ones that are ultimately going to borrow the money. I thought it made sense for it to start at our board. I started the ball rolling.
It becomes a build project.
It's not a
beginning of
build.
It's not, no,
It's
it's not.
not.
I guess I will deign to have the floor now, Mr. Chairman, if it's all right. There are probably 3 or 4 entities that are involved in the discussion here. One is the Board of Selectmen, the board that inserts articles on the warrant. The other is the Community Preservation Committee, which, if we have a strategy, which is what the administration has proposed to the selectmen, that if the strategy is to, and what we've discussed with this board, is to put your $100,000 in mitigation funds for active recreation, to put it first in the Community Preservation Fund, because then that will produce more matching funds, probably around 30,000, somewhere between 25 and 35,000. That, wouldn't it be best for us to put your $100,000 in the CPA fund and then to take out 30 from the CPA, put it in, take it out? The fact that you put it in meant that you'll get another 30,000 in state matching funds. The presentation that was made to the selectmen by Mike Rory's group was of a $1.8 million project, which the board did not jump to support right then and there. We're not putting a $1.8 million project on the warrant for this fall. But the idea that came out of that discussion was, well, let's go for some short money to do a study, to see, essentially to follow the process that the track had done. And step one is you do the feasibility study to see if you can do it. Then you'll have real numbers, then you'll know, no one's asking anyone to decide now or at this November town meeting if everyone is going to fund the construction of it. We're not at that point of the conversation yet, much less what would the funding source be, because if it's turf, you can't use the CPA, Community Preservation Fund, for the turf part of the project. But if we recognize that there's a groundswell of support in the community to at least do the study, and it's going to cost around $30,000, shouldn't we try to find a funding mechanism that costs the town nothing? So we found one, and it requires the cooperation of the Community Preservation Committee to essentially say, if we give you the $100,000 to put in, you gotta cough up 30, or else we're not gonna give you the 100, because if, and meanwhile, you've got 100. There is the 100. I say you. I mean, you got it for us. It's sitting there. We are looking to take our cues on what this board thinks is a good use of that money. Do you vote to take it out? No, you don't. Town meeting does. Town meeting votes to do it. And so what we've come up with is the notion that if there's a groundswell of community support to at least do the study so we have information to base future decisions on, then there are two options for funding. One is a no-cost option, by putting your $100,000 in the CPA fund and then spending 30 from it, and then we get 30 to replenish it a year from now. That's one. Number two is, if we're not able to reach accommodation with the Community Preservation Committee, frankly, is to bypass them and appropriate it directly from the $100,000 at town meeting, which ends up costing us $30,000. So I think it's worth to have, and I saw the discussion, people were talking past each other, and so what I'm looking to do is to have a common understanding among all the groups, and it's not only those I mentioned, but also the Finance Committee, of how we should fund this study, since I think it's a pretty safe bet that there's a groundswell of support in the community. They'd like to see it done, so that we can make informed decisions in the future. So that's it. So
That's a no-brainer.
So that's where we are.
That's the bottom line, is the statement you just made is, what we're actually looking to do is put $100,000 into the CPC funds to get the 30 out, in order to play to the state, and get the 30 back.
And then you, right.
All right, so let's, make a
wait.
motion to move it to.
No, excuse me, this was my question. Keith, all that was explained on paper, no one's questioning the mechanics and logistics.
Yeah.
Is who is driving it? And
Who
it
cares?
What?
It's the residents and the athletes to
We
be,
do care, and
get the bottom, are the recipients of it.
I'm driving it. They came before us, we had a meeting with the selectmen and the turf committee. They wanted to move right ahead and go to town meeting to put the money in.
So-
We had the $100,000. I'm a little protective of it because I worked hard to get that $100,000 for us. I suggested that we do the feasibility study. Didn't get a lot of support, but eventually, after we talked about put it in the CPC, getting it back out, a zero cost to the town, I suggested.
I don't question the mechanics of it. The mechanics make
Well,
sense.
and
But
I
if it's a
just wanna- I
groundswell,
just
why
wanna
isn't the
underscore-
selectmen? They have
The
say-
selectmen are going to
Who
take the
cares?
ball and run with it once we give them the okay.
I do want to underscore, though.
It's a courtesy they're
Right,
asking.
it's a
It's not
courtesy.
really our money.
So we give our blessings, that's right, it's not our money, it's the town's money. Give it blessings, do it, why isn't the town selectmen doing this?
They are going to
We
do
are.
it.
They're not, it's
We're
the
prepared-
applications from
We're-
us.
We're prepared.
What do you
to put-
care?
We're prepared to put the articles on the warrant, but we're looking to, in fact, I've invited the CPC for a joint meeting with the selectmen on the 22nd, because I'd like some mutual assurance that if we have the article to put $100,000 in, that we're going to get 30 out. And I need to hear that
But you-
at the joint meeting.
Well, yeah,
Are
but-
we hearing that from you? Are we hearing
Oh,
that?
we have the chair support.
And you could tag all the 100,000 for active recreation, that's the purpose. And all that can go in as growth, all that can be active recreation. But this seems strange for us proposing a build project. Selectmen can, look what historically has been done for the track or Park and Rec. I mean, it seems very
They were done, they're
strange.
doing it as a courtesy to me. That's the best way to put it. I suggested it, they said, let's run it by your board, make sure everybody, this is the $100,000 that we got
But it's not ours.
Let's
It's
see if we can
common
address it through the chair, okay? Chair, you allow people to speak, like the old days.
Yeah.
You recognize someone, and when you're done, off you go.
Just
So
as
are
we
you
did now?
recognizing this gentleman out there to make the statement?
Yes, go ahead, let's
I thought
get
you
this
were, I
over and
wasn't
done
sure.
with, let's be finished.
Okay, I'd like to speak earlier, more as a citizen earlier, but I'll speak a little bit as the chair of the CPC. I understand, Keith did contact me, and I'm trying to promote with the committee a possible joint meeting with the Board of Selectmen. So we're not sure if that'll happen, but it could be next Tuesday, right?
A week from Monday.
Okay.
Oh, your meeting,
Yeah.
that next Tuesday.
No,
My meeting, the selectmen is a week, is
the 22nd, okay. So if we could make the 22nd, I probably wouldn't have to repeat some of the things, but I think it would be helpful, since this is the first time that I've been before the planning board, to tell you a little bit where CPC is right now. The Community Preservation Committee has done a lot of projects over 10 years, or a handful anyways, but most recently with the Community Preservation Act being amended by the state legislature, it's triggered some of the things that I think bring us to what we're talking about tonight. Would it be okay if I just gave a little backdrop, Mr. Chair?
Very quickly, please.
Okay. The amendments allowed for active recreation, so we could fund directly projects like the turf fields or like 300 King Street. Prior to the amendments, which was just last year in the legislature, we couldn't fund projects like this. Along with the amendments, we got, the legislature ensured that the Community Preservation Committee, communities would feel like this was palatable, because they would get new funding sources. And what the planning board, the 100,000 that you found, and through Keith's office, he's often talked about how we could get monies to bolster our fund, because right now the fund is a couple things. Real estate tax surcharge is the primary one. So if we can bolster our fund, I think it's a win-win for the community, because of now we have active recreation supportable, and we have new revenue sources, so we don't feel that it's tipped the balance and there's some disproportionality that recreation is carrying away all the CP funds. So with that in mind, I think it's really smart for the CPC to appear before the Board of Selectmen to try and give this a shot, because this is the first time we've really been presented with, in this environment, political environment, the opportunity to use outside funds for active recreation. So it's a real test, I think, for us.
Thank you.
Yep. And it had been my suggestion when we first came up with the idea of why not take the 30 out of the 100. My first thought was, well, you know, we really ought to run that by the planning board first. And so why are you involved? Well, because I think as a courtesy.
Right, exactly, that's what I'm trying to get at. Okay, so as a courtesy, would the board endorse the
Yes,
selectmen
yes.
taking the money, the 100,000 that we got from Omni, putting it into CPC to try to get $30,000 so that we can do a feasibility for the track?
I have no problem.
I support that.
Turf.
That aspect, I have no problem.
Okay,
agree.
all those in
Yes.
favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
I do have a problem with us being
Next.
applicant.
Well, we're
No,
not
you-
really,
you can
we're
just
not
stop
really the
it.
applicant. Okay,
You better be careful.
we have an 8 o'clock.
Stop
Thank you, Keith.
Threatening.
You are, you have.
8 o'clock, public hearing, wireless communication. We have the guy with all the little green cards over there, who's dying to tell us all about Newtown Hill water tanks. For Sprint, right?
Yes.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good evening. My name's Daniel Klasnick. I'm the attorney. I have offices at 210 Broadway in Lynnfield, Massachusetts. As this board may recall, last month I actually appeared before you. T-Mobile was doing something similar to this. They were upgrading their facility to deploy 4G. That's what Sprint is proposing to do with this location as well. In order to do that, similar to what T-Mobile did, it's necessary for them to change out and add actually some additional antennas to the existing telecommunications tower. Currently,
Actually, he has to read the public hearing first.
Yeah, open here.
oh, I'm sorry, I thought that's what
It's
the
okay.
chairman had done. I was well on my way there.
He's got to read it.
This is a public hearing to renew and modify the wireless telecommunications special permit 559A Newtown Road, Sprint. Town of Littleton Planning Board will hold a public hearing on Thursday, September 11, 2014 at 8 p.m. in room 103 of the Shattuck Street Town Hall. 37 Shattuck Street, to consider the application for a special permit renewal and modification pursuant to MGL Chapter 40A in the Code of the Town of Littleton zoning, wireless telecommunications towers and facilities, Section 173-128 through 173-133. Property location 559A Newtown Road, map U30, parcel 5A, property owner, Town of Littleton Water Department, applicants STC 6 Company by Global Signal Acquisitions 3 LLC, its attorney in fact, and Sprint Spectrum LP. The applicant is seeking to renew and modify an existing special permit under the Wireless Telecommunications and Facilities bylaw to allow specific equipment updates and associated improvements at the 559A Newtown Road water tank site. Application and plans can be viewed at the planning board and town clerk's office during their business hours. Any person interested or wishing to be heard on the proposed plan should appear at the time and place designated. You may continue.
So we're basically
Jumped the gun.
changing the arrays out, putting a new modern array up there, correct?
Yes, essentially, I mean, Sprint is actually going to be adding 3 additional antennas at the same height and location. They currently have 3 antennas. So in order for them to deploy their 4G service, they actually need to add 3, so they'll have a total of 6 antennas. They're adding 3 remote radio heads and a fiber cable. They'll switch out some of the equipment that's inside the existing cabinets. There's not going to be any changes to the ground equipment other than that, so it's basically adding the 3 antennas at the same height, putting in the cable.
All the same kind and like?
Yes.
Board, have any?
Is this, just out of curiosity, you've got 4 more to come in front of us, or is this the all lumped together?
No, there's just this evening?
There's
Yeah.
one more after this.
There's one more after this.
Same
Row.
scenario?
Yes, exact same.
Can we lop them together?
Nope. One at a time. All right, we're all done. Are you?
I'm
anyone have- you
done.
Good.
Oh, any residents have any issues with the Newtown Hill water tower?
So there's no major change, it's the same form, basically.
Yes, it's just adding those antennas to allow them to.
And that will change the shape, or it's
No, they
substitution?
use the same exact rack. It's actually set up for those number of antennas, so they're really just mounting it to the existing mounts.
So it's purely substitution, it's keeping the same form.
Yes, but it is adding 3 new antennas. I mean, but it's on the same triangular mount that's there now.
Pretty much what you said already twice? Yeah, okay.
It's, the existing mount will support the additional antenna. And we're working with at the same time.
So in Newtown Hill, they extend out, which is
Yes.
sort of an issue, and some people raise concerns, so is it gonna extend out more?
Well, it'll be on that, there's already an existing mount there. so-
Right, but going out horizontally?
Well, I think the antennas are 6.3 inches deep, so it's going to extend, I guess, 6.3 inches further.
So not that much more?
No, no,
So birds flying by aren't gonna catch the wings on it?
no.
Yeah, why didn't you be polite and be a little more professional?
I was
All right,
just
I'll
asking,
entertain a
make
motion
sure
to
you know
approve
we're
the-
on a flyway.
The special permit for 559 Newtown Road, the Newtown Hill water tank for Sprint.
I will second that motion.
So moved, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, now we have another public hearing for the wireless telecommunications special permit for Porter Road.
I agree. This again. Let's say do it. It's a public hearing to renew and modify wireless telecommunications special permit 59 Porter Road, Sprint. The Town of Littleton Planning Board will hold a public hearing on Thursday, September 11, 2014, at 8:15 PM in room 103 of the Shattuck Street Town Hall, 37 Shattuck Street, to consider the application for a special permit renewal and modification pursuant to MGL Chapter 40A in the Code of the Town of Littleton zoning, wireless telecommunications towers and facilities, Section 173-128 through 173-133. Property location is 59 Porter Road, map R12, parcel 4. Property owner is Spound Development Associates. Applicant is STC 6 Company by Global Signal Acquisitions 2 LLC. Its attorney in fact, and the Sprint Spectrum LP. The applicant is seeking to renew and modify an existing special permit under the Wireless Telecommunications and Facilities bylaw to allow specific equipment updates and associated improvements at the 59 Porter Road site. Application and plans can be viewed at the planning board and town clerk's office during their business hours. Any person interested or wishing to be heard on the proposed plan should appear at the time and place designated. You may begin.
Yes, this is identical in all essential respects to the other one. Sprint will be adding the 3 additional antennas with 3 remote radio heads at the same height, using the same mount, all with fiber cable, and they'll switch out some equipment in their existing cabinets. There's not going to be any expansion to the cabinets themselves, so it's basically just adding the antennas so they can upgrade their systems for the 4G.
Can't remember who you're working for, can you?
So is this similar to the last one? There are more antennas?
Yeah, they have, once again,
Same size?
they are exactly the same size.
Excellent.
Not gonna stick out anymore? About 6 inches?
I'll entertain a motion to approve the special permit wireless telecommunication for 59 Porter Road.
Second.
Brent,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Gentlemen.
Thank you.
Okay, we have an 8:30 that we're only a couple minutes. Sanderson Road?
Sanderson Road?
Yep. Bennett's Orchard. Oak Hill Road, Sanderson Road, what's
He's
it
here?
now?
He's
Yeah,
here.
they're here. I thought you weren't coming.
No, they're coming.
Because I can't be here on the 9th.
Why, any,
Are we getting a 5-minute update? Is that what it is?
I'm not gonna say anything.
Oh, God.
That knocked it down to a 2-minute update.
I won't even put my easel up, how's that?
I'm not gonna say anything.
What? Is there anything I should get?
Oh.
Huh, I like that. We talked last time, I recall, about the trees and the quantity of trees and so forth, and I made a decision we decided 42 trees. I wanted to show you how it lays out in the plan. So I decided to put 3 small fruit trees out front in the island, so they don't overpower them, and then start with the larger trees. And you can see how they space out 2 by 2. It looks, I think it looks great, and there's 42 trees right there. I actually had to add that one, which is a little off center, so I really would like to do 41, but I agreed to do 42, so I stuck that one there.
Looks wonderful.
Good. Well,
Richard, what do you think? Oh, Richard.
this is, and this is on the plans, by the way, they're not colored, but this is the site distance issue that we had left over. So here's Whitcomb, the entrance to Whitcomb, the 4 trees that I told you were going to be removed. The sight line in this direction is, my guy said, like 1,100 feet. You gotta get around this corner a little bit. This corner of the road comes real close, but you can. I stood there myself and I saw tires forever. In this direction, it's 333 feet, which is, for this kind of roadway, I think it's perfectly fine. Allen Road, you remember, we had planned on it coming down here where those 4 large trees are, and then we moved it, I can't remember how many feet, 210 feet in this direction, and then we put the S-curve and flip the units around. That provides, in this direction, 394 feet, so that's plenty good. In this direction, there's a tree in the way, so if you look before you hit the tree, you'll get 274 feet, and if you look after you get to the tree, you get 274 foot. If you look right at the tree where I'm supposed to be 14.4 feet back, which is pretty much from here to there, that's pretty far from the edge of the roadway, but that's how I have to do it according to AASHTO. I'm down to 149 feet. But a second before and a second after, you'll have plenty of sight distance. Just look, and you do that all the time everywhere. You look around telephone poles and around trees, you don't even notice it. So that's it in that one. And for 3 lots, it's really a glorified driveway. I think that's all I have. How's that for a 5-minute update?
And an update on where you
Oh,
are.
drainage.
Yep.
Thought you weren't gonna talk.
Right,
He's just reminding me. So, and by the way, with that, I wrote a report September 2nd. You should already have that, which outlines everything I just said on site distance. We had 2 items, really 3 items, 2 old and a new comment relating to the detention basin. And that has been, in my opinion, has been resolved. Luke just got it a couple days ago, so he hasn't done his review yet. But the bottom line is, it's a technical matter that we differed on. I don't even know if I have it here. But we differed on a technical matter. I went ahead and did what he wanted. One of these plans has a clip. Anyway, there it is. Didn't have to
changed the grading and all. I changed the RCP pipe as you requested at the last time. And we changed the curbing to the granite and all that, and the sidewalks. So right here is outlet structure. Before, I had a little infiltration system going in so that it would drain. We have to detain for 24 hours. I was less than 24 hours, so I just raised the outlet. He didn't like that. He wanted me to lower back the outlet again and change the orifice size. So I went, the lowest orifice size went from 3 inches to 2.5 inches. And I was able to get it to work. I got 29 hours of detention time. So he needs to review that. I presume we will be done by the October 9th, one way or another, on that last issue. So I won't be here, but I think everything technical will be done, and Paul will be here on that date.
You'll have a condition of approval and everything, you and Maren will work it out before the October 9th, something for us to vote on. Great. Anybody in the audience have any questions?
No.
You guys, like I said, it's been a pleasure to deal with you. You've done an admirable job, and you've been very responsive to Green and our concerns.
Thank you.
Thank you for that.
And we'll need to extend the time for the approval until some date after that date. And I will send you that paperwork tomorrow.
Great.
Oh, there's one last thing that I wanted, Marin's gonna remind me. I didn't put it on the plan yet, but there's no requirement for setback distances in your open space zone. Marin makes a good point. It would be nice for the inspector to know what the board was thinking. So I analyzed every single lot, and 10 feet all around would work. Now, obviously, we're gonna be more than that in a lot of the cases, but there's a couple cases in the front yard where the 10 feet would work, and then on the side yard, a couple cases. Rear yard doesn't matter, but, so I was thinking 10 feet all around. We'll put that in the plan, then the building inspector will know.
On the setback for,
Buildings.
from the street?
Yeah, they're not 10 feet.
No, it's 30.
Well, and that's the issue. Under open space bylaw, there is that requirement.
It goes away.
Goes away. So the issue has come up
So,
on
like
some of the other open space.
10, because it was density.
Well, that's what he's requesting. And then down the road, when residents want sheds or additions or whatever,
That's really important.
then, yeah,
That's where it comes in.
yeah.
Actually, that's a big deal.
So, part of the reason why you're thinking 10 is there's a large right-of-way between the edge of the travel way and the right-of-way. I think it's 14 feet. So then the worst case, I could live with 15 in the front and 10 on the side, if you want to push it. But this lot right here, this one right here, 28, is right at 15.
That's sheds.
From the-
From the right-of-way.
From the right-of-way.
But 29 feet from the edge of pavement.
I think 15, and the 10's just,
There is
I think
no
it's too
setback.
close.
Okay, so 15 front,
So anybody
10
wants to drop a
side.
shed in there,
Yes.
it's gotta go to the
Doesn't really
ZBA.
matter what you want to do for rear. So-
the rear, it's usually 10
There's
feet
no
off of
setback, they're gonna have to get a variance from the ZBA, because there is no side setback.
unattached.
We have to be a certain distance anyway from the outside boundary of the open space,
Right.
40 feet, I think. So we're at least 40 feet from the open space under your bylaw.
Now, is that right away run around the entire property on the roadside, so the minimum anyway would be is
This side's
20?
gotta go to the.
Oh, from the rear yard?
No, the front, it's gonna be 25 feet from the road minimum.
Yes.
Okay.
Go to the ZBA
Thank
to
you.
get it under 15.
So it won't look bad.
That's what I'm
at
saying
all.
right now,
It
is
won't
that
look
10
like
feet
a
Then we'll
shed
move
on
into
the
the city.
On that one, you can put it anywhere you want, this is nice. Right.
So I'm good with 15-foot front, 10-foot side, 15-foot rear.
Fine.
So
I'm good.
Okay, and I'll put that right in the plan. We'll put the actual setbacks on every single lot that's not there now, but we will in the definitive plan, so you'll see that.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Going once.
Over your hand.
So long.
You know what? We'll give Richard this. I brought these in case you guys want.
For the trees, colored ones?
That's it, so we'll be done by the 11th, we'll have to see, we won't see anymore?
The 9th.
I meant the 9th, yeah.
Yep.
Totally done?
Yep.
You and Maureen are gonna work out the details
Yes.
of the, so we have a nice clean conditions of approval, we can sign.
And I'll be in New Orleans with
And
my
I'll
daughter.
put this
In
one
New
on
Orleans?
early in the meeting.
Yeah, put it on there, let's get,
That's gonna be a
Probably
good
7:45.
time.
that'd be
Did
perfect.
Richie have, what was Richie's input on
Thank
the,
you.
Thank you.
Although you're not gonna be there for mine.
We have,
What you got
845
now?
Russell Street,
Going to
119.
see you during
Right
my.
on time, look at that.
I've never made it from Mardi Gras.
I can't believe it.
Till last year.
Thank you. Have fun in New Orleans.
Thank you.
Stay off of Bourbon Street.
I'll be right there.
You're up.
We're up. You're ready.
All right.
Getting there. He's setting up. That's our architect.
You guys call each other this morning?
Oh, yeah?
No. Oh, you didn't get the memo, huh? Nope. I'm sorry, I just trying to make it a little
I
bit
had the
fun.
same, I had the same thing happen to me today, This guy next to the guy, the exact same colored shirt on.
So he's gotta read it.
Sometimes things abound.
I gotta read this?
Hang on, I'll get you the right one.
I gotta read this?
No, not that.
This one.
This is, I know it's a public hearing. This is my third one tonight. I get no overtime for this, you know. No open hearing?
Prevailing wage?
Go ahead.
Bacon Davis. Read. Public hearing for the Littleton Village Overlay District, West Beaverbrook area, special permit, Russell Street at Route 119. Town of Littleton Planning Board will hold a public hearing on Thursday, September 11th at 8:45 PM in room 103 of Town Hall, 37 Shattuck Street, to consider the application for special permits pursuant to MGL Chapter 40A and the Code of the Town of Littleton zoning. The application is for a master plan overlay development special permit within the Littleton Village Overlay District, West Beaverbrook area, under sections 173 through 169 through 173 through 179 of the Code of the Town of Littleton zoning. Property location is Russell Street at Great Road, Assessors Map R18, parcels 2-1 and 2. Applicant is Concord Property Management. The applicant is seeking approvals for a development of 7,400 square feet of new retail and/or restaurant space and associated site improvements within the Littleton Village Overlay District, West Beaverbrook area. Applications and plans can be viewed at the planning board in the town clerk's office during their business hours. Any person interested or wishing to be heard on the proposed plan should appear at the time and place designated. You may proceed.
Great, thank you. I'm Travis Snell with Concord Property Management. You saw us here 2 months ago, and we just wanted to come back to you and talk about our plan and the provisions that we've made pursuant to your comments from the last meeting. Bill can talk about the engineering, and we brought Cass, our architect, who is going to talk a little bit about the architectural. I think, why don't we start with the architectural, because that was one of the big concerns that you had. Initially, we had more of a, I guess you'd call it a modern retail design, and you said that wasn't, the design we had wasn't in keeping with Littleton and the feel that you want for the town. We took those concerns and thoughts and also looked at some of the other buildings in the town, and these are our new renderings of what it'll look like if it's approved. Cass, is there anything you want to talk about?
No, I think you've covered it pretty well. Basically, we took the comments that were made last time, took some ideas from some of the surrounding buildings and the things that you have approved, and kind of folded them into the building that was presented prior, and I think we have a much better fit here. It's some more similar vernacular. I think the balance and the scale work much better overall with what you have in the region, and still works very well functionally for the landowner as well. So we've got clapboard in here, we have shingle in here, some nice scaled windows. We've broken up the roof with some other additional features and created more shadow lines, etc. So and added some lighting components to keep in with your current signage codes and zoning bylaws. So
Looks like Moran's building. That's exactly. Moran's building.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
I don't think those are full gables. I don't think those are full gables.
But it does look somewhat industrial.
Second floor in the front end of the storage building. It looks more like a Midwestern building than anything I've seen in 30 years.
Where?
The storage building was just a facade.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that
So why
has
don't you give us a little insight into the circulation, what you're proposing
Okay.
for retail use out
Could
there?
you address the windows actually, will it be open or is it going to be closed like some Walgreens, or CVS's? There's, you have
What do
only
you
a couple
mean open?
inches. And, yeah,
those are intended to be open. You know, see-through?
See through, yes, okay.
Oh, not open.
Yeah, I thought you meant like.
Yeah,
No, these are transom
Well,
systems.
not have a
They'll
false
be
wall
glass.
right behind it, which
No.
sort of looks
No.
ugly,
Okay.
like CVS.
Okay, so, the design is largely the same. We did talk about circulation, so we opened it up on this end. We have more parking down here. We have 38 spaces total now, and just opened it up to go to the next parking lot. This building was also revised. This is Building B. We took about 350 square feet out of it and squared up this back edge so that we could pull the wall forward, and hopefully that helps with some of the conservation concerns. Apart from that, it's largely the same. A small section of sidewalk has been taken away here because there's no longer any doors on the front to access. We're still maintaining 51 feet to the right-of-way. So we're still requesting that reduction down to 50 feet. And that's about all that changed.
Are you asking for a waiver for the parking?
Yes, we are requesting a waiver.
Is that the number of spaces configuration or what?
Well,
I thought it was more, a few more than that.
if the plan, I believe, is to go with possibly half retail in this building, half a bank, and then go with some sort of donut shop. And if it went that way, then I ran some quick numbers, and it seems like it would come out to almost exactly 38 spaces. It would be right in that area. If it went all retail, then we'd be closer to that 50 number. So that's why we'd like to request a waiver from that.
Although it's interesting that people shouldn't complain about Littleton, there are too many banks and too many donut places, but, yeah. And
It's true.
I don't care what you put in there. I don't have a problem with the parking. You've got the access to the one next to it, which is your building also, correct?
That's correct.
I see no problem in the setback. I don't see a problem with that either, do you?
Well, I know citizens have concerns, but it sounds like you're in a tight situation with wetlands.
Yes.
So, yeah, I understand that,
Right.
yes.
We are leaving, though, a lot of open space here. I mean, this shows kind of the whole site in a bigger proportion here. You know, this is the entire site, and we're only really using this part of the site, and the remainder is the, you know.
How do you feel about turf fields?
That's what I was gonna say. Nice place for a turf field.
You know,
Would have to raise
Yeah, we'd be totally open to that. The question is, you know, that land is not designated generally as being dry enough for it, but the town may have a
Build
different
it up.
avenue.
If
Sam
the
Park's
town
got a
was-
bunch of fill.
If the town wants it, we're all ears.
You mean for the
For
field
the
spot?
open
Yeah.
space, sure.
Why not?
How far is it from
The other thing we
Wendy
might
Building
like
to
is to have
119?
the ability to have some signage up in the end.
Yeah, right here. I mean, this is
Kind
the
of a
Sandpark
monument.
project over here.
Right.
You all know what we're dealing with. But,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
this is it's a fairly sizable acreage. I think.
What do you
it's
think the
2.5
name of one of the
acres.
places would be in one of those buildings? Donuts R Us. This field, this turf field donated by Donuts R Us. Please come in and visit. What do you think?
So what about the signage again? I'm sorry, could you just go back to the signage?
They just bought us a field.
Sure. We haven't come to you with a signage. Bruce just mentioned that. But I think that, you know, if you were talking about, and we haven't even addressed it or are seeking it, but, you know, obviously, if you could ever put signage over here, you know, to alert people that there's something down there. Right now, our only visual cue here is to go look down the field and say, oh, there's whatever that particular.
Well, you'll have, won't you have a sight line from the off-ramp?
What do you mean?
You'll
Well,
be able to see it.
you'll have a sight
You'll be
line
able to
there.
see it,
But
yeah.
there are more and more trees in here, and, you know, frankly.
But it
it's-
is odd having signs that far away, it sort of urbanizes it a bit. I was curious about the driveway, you know, we talked about the geometries meeting the person across the way as opposed to having them skewed, and, yeah, usually when you look at roads being put in, they want the geometries opposite, so people see what's coming before them, prevents accidents. So what was the thinking here?
To basically just get the buildings with the wetlands where they are.
Whether the driveway where it comes out in the road and it's not matched up
Yeah.
opposite the driveway of
It's
the
pretty close.
person. But it's usually a safety concern. Certainly when Mass Highway designs things, that's one of their main concerns of streets. You have clear, precise geometries, so people aren't doing funny maneuvers that cause accidents.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true
Well-
for roads, but this is a driveway and then another driveway access point, and I think that we had, as Bill's trying to say, we've had trouble designing this with the variables that we have. We can't, we are so limited in kind of how we can position these buildings, we can't really move that over.
Yeah, because we have drainage limiting us in the front, we have the septic on this side, and the wetlands all in the back and on the edge here, so.
And I
You've
guess-
done a great job.
I guess my next
Mr.
concern
Fisk.
is, the way it's configured, people come out, oh, okay, that helps. I just wonder if light's gonna shine into the person's house, come here, but it seems like it's a little bit offset, so that's not likely to happen.
Yeah,
That's actually a
and
benefit.
this distance from the building to the house across the street, it's approximately 200 feet, because we're 50 feet off the front here, and they're about 100 plus a 40 to 50 foot right of way. So.
Yeah.
We're gonna try and get our new sign bylaw enacted. Will you abide by the new sign law, even if you get this in before?
I don't know what your new sign bylaw is.
It'll look very nice.
No, were you thinking of piling on something, like what's, something complimentary with Sam Parks putting it on his side?
I don't know. the
No
exact
internal
sign.
lit signs, this light will be outside shining back at it, 2 colors, possibly
I
3.
think what we've designed
We're
here
looking
is
at
that,
2.
if you look.
Yeah, that looked nice.
That is our kind of standard,
Yeah,
because
it's
we
your sign.
figure that's more in keeping with what the town is looking for.
Which I think is true.
Yeah.
Great.
No, but you're talking about signage
On the end of the road, too.
at the end of the road, right?
Signage, yeah.
Right,
Well,
that's by application to the building inspector for a building permit, for a sign permit.
Yeah,
So-
I mean, not to us.
I
Where
mean,
are you at
this,
with the drainage? Have you sent anything off to Green or nothing yet, right?
Not yet.
I don't believe so. We submitted drainage to the town.
So what do you think of the concept? It's a lot better than what we saw the last time.
I think it's fine, I can't, I mean, what do you think?
They're shoestring by what they can and can't do on the side.
No, I know, it's not even a.
I agree, I mean, there are concerns, but the configuration's tight.
Hamstring.
Hamstring, right.
Good.
Okay.
How you doing? I live on Russell Street, and I'm not against this at all, I just had some concerns.
Name for Warren, please.
My name is Robert O'Fray, I live at 162 Russell Street. And my only concern is what we're gonna do with the water table, because all those houses have water issues, and I'm just concerned about changing the water table and putting it across the street. That would be a big problem, because some of these summer pumps run.
You mean their water? They're gonna affect your water?
Well, in that field, in
It's
the
wet.
springtime, there's ducks that even come in. I mean, it's a pond in the
In the spring,
springtime.
Right, and Russell
So the water
Street,
table is
you've been
really high.
island, like islands, and there's flooded so much that houses are.
But that's not gonna affect them, they're in the upland spot.
Well, yeah, but they're gonna do a drainage calculations. We're gonna send it off to the engineer. They're gonna have detention ponds in the front. He's gonna look at all of that to make sure that the post drainage is no worse than what it is there right now, so he has to adhere
He
to
has
all
to
of
meet
that.
those
Yeah.
requirements.
And that's why I asked if he had sent it out yet, because
Okay,
that's
well,
gonna be
I'm just saying,
the,
when that neighborhood was built, I mean, right across where that's gonna be,
They used to
in
flood
people's
all the
front
time.
yards, it turns into a pond. And then you go down a little bit farther, and the water table's so high in the springtime, your sump pump runs for a month. So that's all my concern. I think it looks like a great building, and I'm not against it. It just, that's my main concern, is making sure that the water isn't gonna get any worse.
we have to make sure the pre and post development of that is, the water is the same, the water runoff is the
Okay.
same.
Yeah, and even if they did cause flooding on your property, they'd have to mitigate it. They'd have to fix it.
Well, yeah, see, I'm not looking for that. I'm looking to prevent it from.
Oh, no, his
getting,
calculations
that's
have
all.
to, he has to be able to show that he's not gonna impact your property.
Well, I guess I'm a little confused on, how would you, when, in that corner right by 119 and Russell Street, then that's a whole pond, and there's only one way to go, and it's overflowing from that Beaver Brook. So I don't know how you.
Well, let's put it
could push
this way, if he can't do that, then he's not getting the building up.
He's not touching that area of 119, that's gonna stay in its natural state.
Your water is coming from your back door, not your front door, correct?
It's coming from underneath up.
Right.
Right, well,
Yeah.
Right, because you're below the water table.
In the
Houses
spring.
are like-
Yeah, yeah.
for his footprint to affect you over there.
Like I said, I'm
it's
not
a
against
fire
this,
stretch, but
I just want to
understand.
bring up those concerns, so they're definitely
Right, and we have a third-party engineer that reviews that plan and will comment.
Okay.
We're gonna make sure that he doesn't impact the neighbors with drainage.
Big umbrella.
All right, do you want to schedule for next month, or you want a couple of months? What do you need for?
Yeah, I don't know, I think it's just, we wanted to make sure this, if you're,
I
you
think
know,
you like it.
okay with this, then we can kind of keep going to the next step.
Okay.
That's what we
You
want
want
to
a
do.
couple of months? Do you want to be on?
You tell me any timing.
I think we'd be okay with a month if this is good with you.
Well, they gotta get back from Green, right?
Well, they have to send it to Green. Wait a minute.
Send it to Green and back from Green, and if that occurs,
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, good. Put us down for the next one.
Okay, so that's also on October 9th.
Put them in right after Bennett.
Yeah, we'll shoot for 8 o'clock.
Great.
Great. Thank you,
Are
Dan.
there
You're
any
listening-
other concerns, just so that
No, I
we're...
think you're listening. We're not thrilled about a bank at a donut shop, but we don't have a lot of
We
choice.
haven't, honestly, we haven't solidified the tenant, so.
Well,
we
it's
don't-
good to know the feeling of the town. If you go through the town, you see a lot of banks, and you see a lot
We're
of
turning into
washes.
Switzerland, that's,
Some
anyway.
chocolate place.
Thank you.
That would be different.
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Piano bar.
All right.
I think we're done.
I think we're done. Mara, do you have anything else for us? Minutes.
Stay fine.
Minutes?
I approve the minutes. All those in favor?
Farmers Road, we need to continue till the October 9th meeting. They submitted the updated plans, Green's started reviewing those this week. Keep moving forward, hopefully I'll work on a draft decision for you. Minutes from August 12th.
On says they're great.
I think we know that, okay. The one set you sent us, right?
Thank you.
Yeah, it seemed okay.
Have a nice weekend.
Okay, payroll, and, yeah, I sent the bills and payroll around for your signatures, thank you. And we got one more inspection report for McIntosh Lane. I think I sent you copies.
It's included,
Everything's-
yeah.
It's going along pretty well.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Good.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, shut us off.
Look at that.